Walker Independence is continuing to prove itself on the network. There's a lot happening in this episode, so much so that I've watched it twice and I feel like I didn't digest all of it. There was just so much that went on.
Okay, see, I told you guys I was going to rewatch it because this whole like talking about it a week after, like I'm blaming it on the CW. Like it's not working. Like it's just not. Anyway, but I didn't get to rewatch it, so I'm like, I feel like I remember the beginning and I remember like the climax. So you guys will have to fill in the gaps for me. I don't think I remember. I remember enjoying it.
Well, it started with Eli. It was interesting to start with a character we weren't introduced to first. That's Eli, apparently Tom's best friend who knew the devil had a friend. That was an apt title for the episode.
Yeah, we have another person 2 weeks in a row, someone close to Tom coming in. Different vibes.
True, because Teresa, his aunt is, no, Teresa, sorry, his aunt is, she is something. That is a queen pin. And Eli was a desperate, desperate man. He was not in charge of anything.
Yeah, he was like, we should start a bar, which was very giving the that one episode of How I Met Your Mother with Barney and Ted where they're drunk and they're like, we should start a bar. It's like not a good idea. And Tom and Walker Defense is like, no, I have other things going on. You need to get out of here, dude.
And Eli just wouldn't. They had a great opening sequence though with Eli, and I think the bounty hunter's name is Santiago. One of the things that I really like about Walker Independence is how much of a Western it is. It's like, it's not just like Western as a backdrop, like it really truly is rooted in Western tropes. Because him running from a bounty hunter and hopping onto his horse, like just with his hands and then going, it was an amazing sequence. I'm like, oh, we have the stunts, we have the things that we need to have for a Western.
I find that you see that a lot in the scenes that are, funnily enough, take place outside of Independence or just on the outskirts of it. We always see it when Callian goes tracking things as well, and it really does remind you that we're dealing with a really ambitious Western here. And sometimes it's easy to overlook that because you just get so attached to the characters and the stories. But this is, without a doubt, probably the most ambitious show on CW right now, and sometimes it's scenes like that take you out of the story, that remind you just how ambitious it was. And it was a great introduction to Eli as well.
And so was the fight between Tom and him, because apparently Eli likes to jump his friends in order to say hello after seeing them, not having seen them for years. But this whole episode was really about like different dynamics and friendships as well, in a very cute and way with Hoyt and Abby and oh god, why am I forgetting her name? Because I love her, Kate. Kate and there was some brush up between Gus and Callie too, and much needed conversation because apparently Gus feels left out, which I was like, oh, he could have more than one friend, Gus.
Yeah, it was important to them because they were established as one of the earliest dynamics in the show, and then you haven't seen it much. So I'm glad that we actually have a storyline to play on that. But yeah, I agree with you. I know what you mean. Like, you can't have more than one bestie. I think Gus is kind of so conflicted by what's going on right now. He doesn't know if he can trust the sheriff. He doesn't know where Abby's come from. And now Callian, who didn't like staying in town, is suddenly in town a lot more. And he's hanging around with some of the people that have raised Gus's suspicions. I see where they're going with this, and I think it makes for a good storyline because I think Augustus is going to be faced with a choice at some point in time, and I'm going to be intrigued to see what choice he makes between trusting the sheriff and doing his duty like he's supposed to, or asking the questions that he needs to.
We had some unforeseen developments with Tom, right? Because there was that sequence toward the end, not to skip to the end, but when Eli takes, his name's Eli, right? You said Eli? Okay. Whew, it's been a week. When he takes Abby like hostage and holds her at gunpoint, Tom's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I was like, oh, does he have a bit of a conscience as far as Abby's concerned?
Yes.
It was an interesting I didn't expect him to draw that line there, but I was like, I don't hate it. It's confusing, but thoughts?
Yeah, Tom has a bit of a crush. I mean, it keeps like it's getting there. He got distracted in his conversation with Eli when Abby just simply went to the bar, and that's how Eli picked up on it. I think it is because I will say there's one thing I don't like about Walker Independence, and it's only because they're making me endeared to Tom. I was like, stop making me like Tom. He's supposed to be our villain.
I
And
know
he's
we
just
meet
so
him as being this murderer, and like we're supposed to have his number, and then as with any good storytelling, I think as much as it's like frustrating, they start to break down that character, like the anti-hero.
Mhm.
And it's like, stop making me like him. I don't want
Yeah.
to.
I know,
And it's
sorry, go ahead, Sabrina.
I was just gonna say it's because Greg's so good and he has like
Mhm.
puppy dog eyes, and you can tell Tom feels really deeply. I'm like, dang it, I wasn't supposed to like Tom. Here we are.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we did say in the first episode that he only appeared in like 2 scenes. And I think those 2 or 3 scenes, while they stayed with us, went a long way to try to highlight him. Like, I love the fact that there's no mystery over who killed Abby's husband. We've said that time and again. It's how is she going to get him is the mystery. And so we knew Tom's the villain of the piece right from the beginning. And the show went a long way to portray that. It was very much like man of few words, Undertaker, like the way it was shot. You barely seen but below his hat or below his eyes underneath his hat. He was and he was always in the shadows and those silhouettes. And now, as the season goes on, you're starting to see more of him. And particularly, I think the episode where Teresa showed up, it very much portrayed that yes, he's a bad person, but he may be like a victim of the environment that he grew up in or that he was part of. Because by this looks of things, the Davisons are not good people. I mean, their reputation precedes them. And I think they're kind of using him as their instrument of destruction because he is now in a position of power where he can like, but that he can abuse if they need him to. And he is very much doing that thus far, just very secretly. But I think as it goes on, we're starting to see more of the side of who the real Tom could have been, what the real Tom was, and that he does have feelings, even if he's a bad person. And like Reed said, I think that makes for a much more interesting, well-rounded villain as well.
It does. It does. It's just frustrating.
Right.
Especially because the show is also like even at the end when Gus was like, actually, I know who might have killed Liam, and it's not Tom. And I was like, wait, no, don't
Yeah.
make it even more complicated for us.
I know, like what information have you been sitting on, sir?
I know. Because he's all like, I wish you'd come to me earlier. Like, or you could have told Callie and yourself, Gus. That's possible.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
phone works both ways, even though there's not electricity in this time.
Yeah, Gus always knew where to find him. I don't know why he didn't just do that.
No, probably because he was like, you're talking to other people. And so therefore I can't trust you right now. No, I love Gus. It was just funny because it did very much reminded me of like, because I think it's because Gus doesn't really have anybody else. He has Callie and I guess in some ways he has Tom, but that's a working relationship that's quite fraught. He even had to tell Tom to fix his tone with him.
Oh, what a scene that was, yeah.
That was great. I was like, not Gus being like, I know you're not talking to me that way.
Kate and Abby's similar dynamic this episode was frustrating to me because I could see where I understand where Abby's coming from. She's like, you know what I want you to know, and can you please leave it there? And Kate's coming at it very I think in her intentions are good. Like she's coming at it lovingly, like you're going to be asked these questions by other people and they're not going to be as nice as me. And she's coming to her as like a friend, like you can trust me. And Abby's like, I trust myself. I don't know who I can trust, but I know I can trust myself. But it was nice to see Abby at the end of the day help Kate out of that jam when things got dicey. So that complicated friendship, I think, is just going to continue to get better as Abby realizes, like, yeah, I can open up to her. But I see where she's coming from because sometimes I'm like, would I trust Kate? Because she does have her own like agenda as this spy, whatever she is. But she does seem like she's really caring toward Abby. But I'm like, is that part of her game? I love her. Don't get me wrong, but just those questions popped into my head.
Well, and she didn't answer any of her own. She didn't answer any questions this episode either. She was the one asking all of them because she wanted Abby to be an open book. And I was like, Kate, you're not playing your own game. What's something that we don't know about you?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I appreciated the work that this episode did as far as them two would go, because I felt like it kind of made up for the work the previous episode didn't do. Because I remember I said when they found out who each other were, they were very open very quickly, and then it suddenly turned in, well, we have to get you introduced to Way, and Kate turned around and go Way, and then suddenly smack down next scene, all the introductions have been done, nobody's asking any questions now, or it's a dynamic of three have suddenly turned into a dynamic of four. And I was like, okay, but Kate's a bit of an interesting character. Or should we not be asking more questions here? I think this episode made us ask them more questions about Kate because she was doing all the asking questions in general. And I really like the fact that her and Abby have had one of the more solid friendships on the show, because they weren't asking those questions to begin with and they were keeping secrets from each other. So it was all nicey. Whereas now, because they know more, they are starting to ask more questions. And I think that went a long way in like solidifying them. I do agree we don't know enough about Kit yet, and I think that's intentional. But I do like the fact that this episode kind of made up for the previous one, and it makes it look better in hindsight now that Abby's like, wait, can I trust you? Why are you asking me all these questions? Same as Kit is like, why haven't you been telling me the truth? They're both very complicated characters, and I think we're going to see more of that as it goes on.
And with Abby's grief, it was interesting. She has this portrait of Liam in her mind that she has to keep a certain way because he's passed away. And Kate like punched that thing over and over and over again in this episode because it makes Abby have to question things herself about her husband, things that she noticed but was pushing to the side. And it does make her wonder, like, who was my husband then? Like, why did we leave? Like, he kept saying it was because of all the bad things that happened in Boston, which I am glad that they keep seeding in these little bits of information about her Boston life, especially when it comes to her family and that dynamic, and learning that her father did not approve of Liam. And we already knew that Abby was headstrong, but seeing how she went up against her father and how that she is one to challenge authority when need be, and that keeps becoming a problem for her. It creates trouble, but it's interesting trouble that she keeps getting into. So I can't wait to find out more about what's happening, because everybody apparently has run away from something. So I want to know what Kate's running away from, and what Callion's secret is, because Gus knows it, but we don't yet. Because there's something that apparently he was hiding, unless that hiding thing was just that he was hiding the Tom stuff, and then never mind about that comment.
Hmm. I don't know.
It does feel like everybody is not saying what they mean and there are secrets abound here. And I think that's a good thing, because like, even though we have our established dynamics, somebody knows more than somebody else, and that could end up causing conflict. I know I do like all of the dynamics and the secrets, but I think of all of the things, Boston is not done with the story yet. I feel like we're going to find out more. It very much has this like shadowy overarching presence, and I feel like a lot of the answers lie in the past, and maybe that's why Abby is being so like cold when it comes to talking about her past, and understandably so with everything that's happened. But I think as she gets her eyes open more and more, we'll get our eyes open more and more as well, because I feel like there are a lot of secrets and answers lie in whatever went down in Boston, both with Liam, the Davidsons. Yeah, I think there's a lot of mysteries that have yet to be solved as far as Boston goes.
And that's what makes it a great show. There's just something in every piece of dialogue, every dynamic, every scene. And it was interesting with Abby how she, not cold, because this man, she does believe this man murdered her husband, but I loved how like her seeing him break down over his loved one didn't change her mission. She just acknowledged that yes, he's a person with feelings, but also he killed my husband.
She can contain multitudes. She can have empathy and also want revenge.
Yes, I love that. There wasn't sort of a slip to, oh, well, he's not a good person, but like he loves someone too. Like there was
She's
none of
like,
that
"Aw,
conflict.
aw,
Yes.
I'm back."
Yes, she was. It's so great. She's a great heroine. Like she's a
Mhm.
great protagonist. One of the best CW has done. And I say that having only seen the first few episodes of Walker Independence. We haven't even finished the season yet. But I just feel like she's one of the best CW ladies we've gotten.
It's a great character, and every episode has been beautifully composed. But um, this episode in particular, these directors and DPs are just the language they have put into every shot. They've set this gorgeous tone for the show, and it's a treat to watch every scene. Like, you're not expecting some of these scenes to look so good, but they are amazing.
Was there anything else though? But besides well, I feel like every week we're like, it's amazing, but it's hard not to do that because there's so much thought that is put into each episode of Walker Independence.
I don't know, like I said, I barely remembered anything.
Just on following up on Reed's note, yeah, I do want to just shout out. Was it the scene where Eli was Eli slowly making his way towards Higgins or whatever? The lighting in that scene, when you saw Independence at night, we don't always see Independence at night. The way it was shot, the lighting underneath the buildings, the dark night sky, again, it just made it feel so larger than life. You get so used to seeing the show in the daylight and everything. And now shooting outdoors is a huge thing for this network, but you get used to it, seeing it seeing Independence in a different light, the way it's shot, the way the characters move through it. It gives it a life of its own. And I also just wanted to commend how visually stunning the show is.
Yeah. Okay. It's I will just put this in my perspective. It's the best show on the CW right now.
The Walker Independence fan club.
I agree. Yeah.